square foot gardening, and it's a method of gardening where the idea behind it is to plant as much food, flowers, whatever you want in a small space as possible, which is more than possible. Another idea behind the square foot gardening is seed preservation. Our traditional manner of gardening is you make a row in the ground, you scatter the seeds in the row, and then about halfway through the growing season you tear up half of those plants. And there's no reason to do that. If you plant them apart appropriately from the beginning, you don't need to tear anything up. So it's seed conservation, it's a land conservation, it is planting things within a square footage instead of rows. And so we're going to talk about that. Now, way to do square foot gardening, it was developed by a gentleman named Bartholomew, and I'll have a link for his website and his book in the doobly-doo below. And again, it's a way to cram as much stuff as possible in a small space. There is information in the book on seeds and how much you can put inside square footage, but if you look on the back of a seed packet, it'll tell you plant this much and then thin out this much. Well, if you take out the thin it this much and just go by the final figure, like I think carrots, they want you to plant them 3-4 inches apart in the beginning and then thin them out so they're 6 to 8 inches apart. Well, if you just plant them 6 to 8 inches apart in the beginning, that means that you're, you know, eliminating having to pull up all of those plants that would have been perfectly edible. So that's the point of square foot gardening. And here you can see we've started gridding out the garden. The cross sections are where the mulch paths are going to go. The squares are the actual garden plots. We're trying for a 4x4, but in some, on one side we're getting 4x5s, which is fine. You know, our plot is 25 by 10. It's not going to be perfect, and that's just fine with us. So this is the beginnings of square foot gardening. And this is one of our 4x4 plots within our 10-foot by 25-foot garden area. It's been gridded out into 1-foot by 1-foot little squares. And as with square foot gardening, how much you're able to put into that little square is dependent on what you put in it. So a tomato plant can take up 1 square foot. Carrots, there can be 16 in each square foot. And so the idea is just to pack as much into a small space as possible, which is our goal.